And that's how we began to come up with what will become A is for Africa, S is for sovereignty.
Because you had to, it had to be created because we don't have books like that. You have, when you think about just getting into reading and having the youth, the babies, you know, going up into that age where they're starting to read, what you hear about Dr. Seuss, you know, that's right. The typical books, Dr. Seuss, you know, the books that have like animals in it, it's like kind of basic level, you know, A is for apple. But what I love about your book, just even glancing at it, you know, it's rich. It's not just basic level. It's teaching. It has context in it. And oftentimes people forget that our children know way more than we think.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Way smarter than we think. So at 3 and 4, even if they're not talking all the way, they're not reading it, they understand what you are saying and they understand you and they can listen to you. And to me, I've always challenged the whole grade level thing. I've always challenged that.
Oh, yeah.
I've always challenged that. But so I love it. You know, so many parents wish they could homeschool. You know, they wish they could homeschool. Before we continue, I want to just see if you could give just a bit of advice to those parents who are tuned in that, you know, they see the same thing that you saw with your daughter. And they have their life and they're just kind of afraid to do it. And homeschool has become more popular than it used to be, but they're kind of afraid to do it. What bit of advice can you give them to, you know, help them on their journey?
To start as quickly as you can with as much or little as you feel like doing. See, when you're actually in charge of the education of your child, you can use everything that you can see, reach, talk to, and touch to educate that child. And it can start with you directing the education of your child. What do we want our child to learn? What are the things that are important to us that we want to instill in that child? And then you begin to look for resources, whether that resource is a private school, whether that resource is a public school, whether that resource is, you know, your grandmama or your friend down the street, and you begin to gather those resources and put them together to put together an educational system for your child. And I really encourage people to do it, even if it's just a little bit that you're doing yourself to begin that movement to take them out of that system. And you don't have to at first just, you know, wrench your child out of something if you don't have the support available to make that happen. You can begin doing the parallel work. You can begin to have them in school and then do a Saturday class. You can have them in school and do some type of activities with other schools on a certain number of days a week. I just really encourage people to just jump in and try to take over that task, because when you allow other people to do the work, they don't always have the same vision that you have.
It's so true. It's so true. One of the things I have in my book, Rhythm Well, Practical Tools for Raising Genius, is you have to know your mission first. You have to, like you just said, you have to figure out what is it that you want your child to learn. And in a culture where we just go and place our child in the classroom and kind of leave, we forget that we should be taking that control and have that intention and consciousness to say, this is what I want my child to learn, and this is what I don't want them to learn, and what I don't want them to be exposed to. I definitely just ran into that with my son, who I allowed to do public school for middle school. But then I went to visit a high school and was like, absolutely not. Like, I just can't do it. I couldn't do it. I tried, but I just couldn't do it. It's like, nope, we're going to bring them back to Pearl. You know, it's like, I'm going to bring them back, because it just was just so much that he could have been exposed to. And it's not that he won't. You know, you have the argument of like, well, won't he eventually be exposed to it and all of them get exposed to it? Yes, and there's a level of intention and control that you can have when you have them in a space that you created or that you are teaming up with and partnering up with to create. That is just not going to happen in a public school. It's just not going to happen. I wish they would kick you out of the building if you go and try to talk about you need to incorporate. They won't do it. So you were in charge
of the level of exposure and when you think they're ready for that exposure.
Exactly.
I mean, unfortunately, sometimes we can't always control when they're exposed to certain things, and therefore we have to come in on the background and do some healing. I know some of this work for me with my daughter, we could see it coming. We tried to make some adjustments, and it just didn't work. Whereas my son came along, and one day he was experiencing, authentic sadness. He's a child. He's like 3 years old, and children usually don't have falsified emotions. They don't substitute one emotion for the other. And his expression of sadness was very clear. His frown was very clear. His cries were very clear. And then after about a week or two after he got an iPad from one of my family members, we started noticing some changes in his behavior. We started noticing some changes in how he expressed his emotions. What had happened was what would have normally, say he lost a toy, what would normally he had done is been sad. He might have asked for some support. He might have cried. That became a crossing of his arms and a frown on his face. Yes, he started showing anger as opposed to his authentic sadness from before. And my wife and I were confused. We were like, what is this? Where did this come from? And we found out he was watching Daniel Tiger on one of his iPads. And Daniel Tiger
has those characteristics.
That's right. It has these episodes where Daniel Tiger explains what emotions are and what are okay ways to show emotion and react to emotion. And it's way out of line, right, with what we try to teach him and what we try to do for ourselves. And he took that on. And so we had to make some changes. We made that change before this book came out. But we saw those expressions in him, and we immediately created a class. We created a class based on this book, Age for Africa, As for Sovereignty. We invited other kids in, and we were able to reverse some of that, because that's what we have to do sometimes. You have to do healing on the back end. We were able to reverse some of that, and then that really amplified my desire to get this out. Because we knew, like you said, other people were already asking me, what do we do? What do you do? How do we get our children the behaviors and the values that we want them to have, the African-centered values that we want them to have? And we were already working on it, but it became clear after that. Yeah,
necessity. Well, we give thanks for you doing the work. You're listening to WRFG Atlanta. This is The Bridge, talk radio for parents, teachers, and students. I'm here with the author of A is for Africa, S is for Sovereignty, an alphabet book for the children. And it's beautiful, first of all. Really, really beautiful. I'm not exaggerating. I love it because it also has like a glossary in the back. That's what I was looking for. It has a glossary in the back. You're not going to find stuff like that with the alphabet book. A typical alphabet book, it's so rich. It's so full of knowledge. I really feel like it's something that's not just for children who are just learning their alphabets, but, on up into, I would even say 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. This is a good, matter of fact, it could be further because there's vocabulary in here that is very rich that can be utilized. So I really love that about it. I want to talk about this African-centered piece. A lot of people are not, they maybe haven't heard of it or maybe not fully understand what it is. What does it mean for education to be African-centered, or what do you mean by African-centeredness?
Oh yeah, it can mean a number of things. One of the things that we mean when we talk about African-centeredness is it gets you closer to yourself. It gets you closer to your family, to your African family. It gets you closer to the things that we created and closer to the things that we consider our way or how we think the world operates. So that's one of the things we talk about when we talk about African-centered education. So when we create a work, we want the images to look like the images of African people, and not just African people whose images are augmented. We want them to look more like the children themselves. We want to, when they see these pictures, them to envision themselves in a way that doesn't have them discount who they are or what they think of themselves. And so that's one of the things we do. Bob Amos called it healing alienation.
Healing alienation. And listen, it's happening. It's happening, and a lot of it is just like embedded in the schooling of the children, like you said, in the cartoons and in the just everything, in the things that our children watch. So it's something that we have to acknowledge, and here are the solutions for it. So I want to get into the book. Can you read a few of them? What's your favorite one that you like?
Oh, I don't have a favorite. This book has been so
the whole
good
book
to me.
Is the favorite, huh?
It's been so good to me. It is my favorite. I mean, if you had to pick one that was about the book itself has an overall theme. Its S is for sovereignty, because there are no amount of changes in law that are going to allow us to have the self-reliance, the self-determination, the self-governance that we need to act as we want to act when we want to act it. See, African people, we want them to look forward to African sovereign nationhood. Bob Ruti refers to it as re-Africanized nationhood. And so when I think of that as the theme of the book, the purpose of the book, I go to O. Okay. O is for organizing, opposing oppression, overthrowing destroyers obsessed with aggression. I observe as my parents plan, gather, and fight. I dream of our winning, overjoyed by our might.
Nice.
See, you were talking earlier, I think you talked about how to get children to succeed in school.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I run into is a little bit of apathy when you're not in total control of your life. When we want children first and foremost to believe that they can solve their own problems, and we also want children to believe that they can and have a charge to solve the problems of African people. And this is one of the things, and this is a huge problem. It's a problem of nationhood. It's a problem of us having a place that is our own, that we govern, that no one else has control over. And so we really promote that. Now, the theme of the book in here, how we get to that, is fighting, healing, and building. It may not be specifically mentioned, but it's in throughout the book.
I mean, you sound like you have value for Wakessa's work, Baba Wakessa. Shout out to Baba Wakessa and Mama Afia.
Shout out to Baba Wakessa and Mama Afia. I am a Educational Institute Warrior Healer Builder Facilitator.
Nice. Okay.
So that's why you're hearing some of that.
I love it. I love it. I use it in my work. I use it in my work. Admittedly, I use it regularly in my work, where I'm always asking people to identify your feelings, because guilt, frustration, all of that, it really can be boiled down to you either sad, you're angry, or you're afraid. Which one are you? And people are amazed at how guilt was really fear, or, guilt is really sadness or something like that. So, anywho, amazing work. We give thanks for everybody doing work in the community. We surely need it. Right. I love that that's embedded in here. I actually gravitated to the B. B is for Baba, because I call my Baba, and a lot of people don't know what I mean, I guess. They figure it out after a while when they realize when I'm talking. But Baba is for Baba. He always buys black. He's building a business, bakes cookies, in fact. With Mama, he's balanced, not a king or a chief. He gets help when he needs it, and in us has belief. Oh, man. And the picture is just so dope.
That's right. Now, I am a Baba. That has a special place in my heart, too. Yeah. I got a daughter and a son, and I love that. And B is for Baba is one of those special things, because, part of me putting this book out, it's not just a book for children. It's also a book for adults. Yeah. It's a book for adults because we want children to be those warriors and healers and builders that we want them to be for our people. And we want adults to guide the children. We want them to model it so that they can have someone to look at in order to know how to think and behave. And so it's adult for all ages, for children, for children through adults. And one of the things we teach the book itself, we know it's a lot. We know it's really breadth. There's a lot of big breadth and a lot of depth. It's a big book in terms of its content. And not everyone knows to ask an author for support or to go and get some support with the material. That's why we offer the glossary. We also have every other week, we try to tell people to come in, talk to me if you want. I make myself available on Sundays if you want to discuss any concepts in the book. If you want to have an idea about, and I do it letter by letter, so we can just go through the letters and take a look at it. And B is for Baba. The first thing that came up for me is how people talk about Babas. And one of the things is the absence of Babas in homes. And what we like to stress is that back in the day, if a Baba wasn't in the home, well, another Baba stepped up.
This is true.
You had multiple Babas. You didn't have just one Baba. This is a community, and we try to reinstill that option back into our community. Folks might tell my daughter, my wife tells my daughter all the time, hey, my mother passed away when I was young. I got multiple mamas. I got a mama right now. She ain't my birth mama, but she my mama.
Right.
And she takes care of me in just the same way.
Right. I love that. And I want to just shout out to all the brothers who may not be with the child's mother, but they're present. And I think they get slack too, just because they are not there. When the sisters say, what they call themselves, like single parent, but in actuality, they're just single. They're not just a single parent. I've seen that meme before, like, you're just single. You're not a single parent because that brother is there,
That's right.
And I think there is due respect. And I shout out because I know plenty, in my circle. So I'm really grateful for that. I love that. I love that you have that talk on Sundays. Can you just give information, just mention that so I won't forget before we get off? How can people take advantage of that when they get the book? Because I tell you now, the book is rich. It is very rich. It has some concepts in there, but that may be a little foreign just to the average person in this society. But it's very, very rich and it's very resonant. Even though it may be foreign, it's very resonant. Because even with that B for Baba, I can only imagine the talk that you would have about just even transitioning from calling daddy or, to Baba. I remember when I began to call my son's father Baba and how that almost, put a little extra, pep in the step.
That's right.
Because he knew that was a level of respect, that I was calling him that. And I love that in it, it's like he buys black. That's important. That's one topic you can talk to the children about. Building a business, that's another topic you talk to the children about,
That's right.
I love with Mama, he's balanced. Oh my gosh, how many conversations are we having with our children about the necessity of in balance in relationships, in relating, and how many of our children are witnessing imbalance relationships. So, whoa, it's context rich.
You can see how important it is not just to give that message to a child, but to give that message to an adult.
Yes.
And better yet, for me to have that child hear from an adult that they love and care about and knows has their best interest in mind, and who can share a story that may go along with that.
Rich. This is dope. This is really dope.
Thank you very much. See, we try to handle it on all levels. Just like you said, when you began calling your son's father Baba,
yeah,
that reconnecting to our languages is another way of healing alienation. It's just reconnecting to the things that are ours, to the things that give us power, to the things that give us better understanding of what we did and why.
Agreed. We're going to take the caller keeps calling. We're gonna take a caller. You mind taking a caller?
I don't mind taking a caller.
All right. We're gonna take a caller. When I pick up, you on live now, so you gotta act right. Greetings. Can you hear me? Caller, you're on the line. Caller, you're live. Okay. All right. We'll wait for you to call back if you call back. But before they call, I was saying, give more information about that Sunday talk that you do, because that sounds just extremely rich.
It's bi-weekly, so it's every other Sunday. The next one will be this coming Sunday. It's at 7 p.m. We do it via Zoom. So if you go out to Facebook and you're on Kibolebole's Facebook page, then we'll have an advertisement. Usually it's going to happen at 7 p.m. and then you can just use the Zoom address and come on in and we can begin talking about the letters.
Okay, spell that, Kiboblebole.
Kibolebole. Okay. Kiboblebole.
One more time.
Kiboblebole.
And that's on Facebook. So if you want more information about that gathering, which online, even better. We give thanks for technology. Is kind of like a give and take, but we do give thanks for technology. You're able to do that. I think that's quite powerful. What have been some of the feedback you've gotten from the books? From the book,
Lord, I got some serious feedback from these books. Just in general, One of the feedback that was really important to me is a friend of mine, Kwame, his wife was one of the supporters of this book. She financed the production of this book. And when he got a copy of the book and he saw me down at Wadada in the West End, he said, "Hey, let me talk to you, Baoku." He said, "Brother, I told my wife that if your name was going to be associated with any book, this is that book right here. This is that book that you need to be associated with." Yeah. He said, "Every image," he said, "every word is perfect." Yes. And I appreciated that. Because this book was 4 years in the making. It's 4 years and a lot of experience in the making for us to come up with those information. I mean, I got a lot of people online commented a lot. I had a sister tell me, she said, "I really, really enjoy the book. Baoku has created a wonderful, beautiful way to reach and teach our children. I'm recommending it to my clients and their families. Thank you for this gift."
It really is. I mean, I'm just looking at it. It's amazing. F is for family and all my black friends. We have fun while we're learning. Fight oppression and win.
That's right.
I can share all my feelings, get support, and far more, because that's what my family and friends are all for.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And the picture, oh my goodness.
See, we try to have the kids have a clear identity of who they are, versus a more confused identity they might get because of some, universal humanism that's being stimulated in their minds. I mean, I myself had some early difficulty with the illustrations because of some of that. We might call it injected oppression. I wanted some illustrators who couldn't at that time bring themselves to produce these images, which are very, very dark.
Yeah.
And they would come back. I sent in a message that said I need to be impossibly black, almost symbolically black, and can you do that for me? And they say sure, and I get something back, and I was like, hold on, is that person Chinese? Is that person? Like the colors in the images were less than. Way less than I requested,
right.
And it's not a slight of the illustrator who actually did that, who attempted to do that, because we didn't go with that particular illustrator. It's just an indication of what this society teaches us to do. It's what it injects in us, and then it comes out in our behaviors.
Yeah, it's subtle. It's so subtle,
That's
and then
right.
It comes out in our behaviors.
And all that stuff can be healed. So we have nothing against the illustrators who, in that time and that place, couldn't produce the work that we wanted. Right. It was very significant. We wanted some specific type of work for this book. So, I
love the care that you all put into it. I mean, I'm looking at the images. 2 families, first of all, on that picture that I'm looking at. The sky is this bright, beautiful pink. You see green in the background of the families. The sisters, one of the sisters of the family has a fro. The other one has like a beautiful little wrap with some locks sticking out the front. Then you have, both of them have a baba with them. That's important because oftentimes, you see sisters by themselves, especially in commercials and on magazines and all that stuff. You have first of all, the baby is on the mama hip now. Come on now. Now that's African.
That's right.
That's African. Then you got the other little baby down. You got the big brother holding the baby's hand. And then something I see the significant, the Baba who has his hand up also has one of his hands on his son's shoulder. Affection showing front of. I mean, I don't know if I'm looking at it super deep, but I just am in love.
You gotta give it up to Salim Bey.
Yeah, Salim Bey did a good job.
I originally asked him to do the illustrations himself. I said, I saw your work. He said he could do the work, and I said, well, you do your thing. I'm not gonna mess with you too much. And he said, brother, this needs to be a collaboration. He said, for a work like this, we need to do this work together. You give me some instruction, I will give you some feedback, and we'll make it happen. And I'm telling you, I appreciate that from Salim. He led us in that direction where we would collaborate on these images, and I think they came out wonderfully. One of the things I wanted when I first talked to him about it, I said, listen, when we look at some images in books, outside that come to our children. I said, I have a daughter. She's 13 years old. And what I want to do is protect her from certain things and protect her friends from certain images. When I pull open a children's book and I see a female character with hair that comes down their head, down their back, off the page and on to the next page. It just reinforces the images that are unlike themselves and that essentially take them to places where they think they are worth less than other folks.
I can speak to it because I went to school in Decatur City Schools. Let's start there. I was an elementary child, so majority of the students there were Europeans, and they had their hair and they were slanging it and all this stuff. And here I am, a little African baby with my African hair, and I kept looking, and everybody was rubbing in their hair. Can I touch it? And blah, 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 blah. So I wanted it. I went and told gratefully my Baba was like, look, your hair is beautiful and you're beautiful. I had that that kind of Baba, gratefully, and, my Baba was the one that said he don't want my hair perm. He don't want my, hair. He said, you're beautiful how you are. So I know what it does because I can remember sitting vividly. I can remember sitting just looking at Sally and all these other people and thinking their hair is prettier than mine or they're prettier than me because they have long silky hair and I don't. Right. Yeah, and I don't. I think it's important. We're gonna pause. I don't want to pause, but I am. I'm gonna be right. We're gonna pause, take care of some station business. Then we're gonna be right back. I'm gonna share one more page because I can't reach y'all the whole book now. Y'all gonna have to get it for yourself. But I have to read this one, and I love the illustration. It's just so dynamic. You've done an excellent job, brother. We're gonna be right back. We're gonna be right back. Stay tuned.
What if every session of Congress started with singing? Greetings, this is Elise Witt. On Saturday, November 23rd at 7 p.m., the Chosewood Arts Complex will host a veritable who's who of Southeastern musicians to celebrate the release of All Singing, the Elise Witt Songbook. The concert benefits the Global Village Project, a special-purpose, arts-infused middle school for teenage refugee girls. As Director of Music Programs at GVP, I have helped to develop a curriculum using singing as a primary focus for teaching English to students from Afghanistan, Burma, Congo, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Iraq, Malaysia, Nepal, Somalia, Syria, Tanzania, and Central African Republic. Singers coming together to perform my songs on November 23rd include Caroline Aiken, Dee Dee Vogt, Deirdre McCalla, Diane Durrett and Melissa Junebug, John McCutcheon, Joyce and Jackie, Veronica Jackson, and the Global Village Chorus. All Singing, the Elise Witt Songbook is a collection of 58 of my original songs with music notation, lyrics and chords, plus photos, graphics, and lots of stories. There are songs in many languages, including my special patented style of polyrhythmic, multilingual musical collages. For more information about the November 23rd All Singing the Elise Witt Songbook release concert, the website is globalvillageproject.org. For more information about the book, the website is elisewitt.com. That's ELISEWITT.com. The Chosewood Arts Complex is located at 420 McDonough Boulevard, Atlanta 30315. Singing is in our souls, singing is in our bodies, singing is in our souls, singing is in our souls, singing is in our bodies, singing is in our souls.
Another public service announcement brought to you by your listener-sponsored and supported community radio, 89.3 FM, WRFG.org, your station for progressive information and hand-picked quality music.
All right. So, I said I wanted to share one more out of the book. A is for Africa, S is for sovereignty. X is for exercise. We know you're confused. That does not start with X. Mom and dad aren't amused. We know it's important to run, jump, and play, and carrying that big xylophone would just get in the way. I love it.
That is right. Listen.
Because usually X is for xylophone.
That's right. X is for xylophone. In so many works, we wanted to get away from that. We wanted to have fun with it. In a work like this, any opportunity you can take to have fun and draw the children into that fun, whether it's through the images or through the words, we want to take advantage of it. So we definitely thought we took advantage of it with that. And we know some parents won't exactly like that the word exercise doesn't start with an X. And that's okay. We can take it.
Yeah. They'll be all right.
Yeah.
And the illustration, they like they're doing capoeira?
Yes, that's right. The illustrations, they're doing capoeira.
Yeah. And that's a whole thing in itself, if you're familiar with capoeira. And then in the background, it look like somebody doing some meditation on the tree.
That's right.
I love it. I love the intentionality of it. That's my thing. It's like intention. And this is melanin magic. When we create books that are our context, listen, I'm not dogging nobody else. It is what it is. But I've never really liked Dr. Seuss books. It seemed silly. It seemed too lower level. It's just like, what essence does it have? It just didn't make sense. Children always like, can you have green eggs? What does it mean? And then, we won't go into it, but many know there's some subliminal messages in Dr. Seuss as well. And we talked about that, those subtle subliminal messages that we want to get away from. We only have a few minutes. I want to make sure you tell people how they can pick up this book, where they can get it from. Do you have any book reading, signing, something coming up in Atlanta, around the world? What's happening?
Wow, I don't have any book readings or signings coming up. And when I do, you can come onto Facebook at Kiboblebole or Facebook at Homemade Joy. That's where we put many of our advertisements first. You can go to www.kiboblebole.com, which is the website for classes and other information and counseling if you want to start educating your child.
Oh, yeah, and you all use counseling. I forgot.
That's
you
right.
all do counseling, couples counseling.
Oh, yes, we do. We do marriage counseling. And I'm sorry, counseling. I have to call it coaching. Yes, we do. Okay. We do marriage coaching. And if you're around, check us out on Marriage Mondays every first Monday of the month. We got some videos that are in that we've already done that you can check out. So Marriage Mondays, we do all of that. And you can check us on IG at Kiboblebole Educational Institute, all one word. And we're trying to get used to. We're not used to posting out on IG, and we're getting more familiar with it. And you can see it. We've been doing stuff all the time, whether it's for reviewing movies or doing the marriage counseling or talking about the book. We do a lot of stuff. So come check us out. Rich stuff,
and very much so a respected and valued couple of the community for sure. And what I was about to say, I got to tell this funny story on how I met you, because I never said it. And when you say it's hard to post on Instagram and stuff, it reminded me. So I had come to Truly Living Well with my group of teachers that I was training over at Georgia State University, and they were volunteering. They were AmeriCorps members, so they had to go volunteer. And so it was a group of them, and they came. And I'm amazed. I'm taking pictures of the farm, and I'm like, wow, this is my first time seeing it. This was years ago when it was on Wheat Street over there. And so I saw this beautiful baby, your daughter. She was baby then. And I got ready to take a picture with her, I think, or something like that. And you hurried up. You came over there and said, I don't want her in pictures, and I don't want her on the internet. And while some people may have got offended or been like, I highly respected it. I was like, that showed how much, you were not protective in a way like that was oppressive or unrealistic. It was, I value my child. And I don't know you, and I don't know what you about to do with this picture. Because at that time, I had some issues with this whole internet thing, and especially with the children. So
that's right.
That's how I met you. That's how I remember you.
I'm going to do you one better, because we met before that.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, we did. See, number one, I just let my daughter on Facebook for the first time. She did a review of the Araminta movie. You can see that. She's teaching people stuff, y'all, because she's 13 now.
Yeah, and she's amazing.
That's right. When we met at Black Star, you came in as you were teaching in public school at the time, and you were in language arts, I believe, and you came into Black Star because at the time I think you were teaching teachers. Yes. And you came into Black Star. This is before the phone. Yes, it was like 2011, and we met at Black Star because my daughter went to Black Star.
Yes. Whoa. You do. See, my memory didn't serve me for that. Absolutely. That's I remember now. I was in there actually working with the teachers and doing different things like that because my son went there. See, when you're doing the work, like, we just be in it. We in it, and we stay in it. And that's what I value about you and the Queen, is that you all have been in it. I've known you for it from the beginning, first time I met you, and still now. And to come forth and birth this beautiful text for our children, it's so valuable. I give thanks. If you never hear nobody say give thanks, I give thanks for it. I really do. I'm going to go ahead and grab my copy this evening to make sure I have it, because I just really, and I look forward to seeing your videos and things of that nature too. I mean, can you spell that again? I just want people to be clear on where they can find you. Spell the school's name
both.
Again.
Now, the school's name is Kiboblebole Educational Institute. So that's KIBOLEBOLE, and that's on Facebook and at the website www.kiboblebole.com. And you can also, especially for the videos that are on the marriage coaching, like the Marriage Mondays, you can go to the Homemade Joy, to Homemade Joy on Facebook. So homemade, one word, HOME, and then joy. I mean, homemade, HOME, MADE, and then joy is the second word, JOY. So Homemade Joy will be where all that, because we want to create homemade joy in the households. Yeah, people are used to me for the cookies and stuff, but we want to do homemade joy.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even mention that. He has great
Yeah.
cookies. Oh my gosh. Oh, I just have to I can't never just get one. It's like, okay, just go ahead and give me 4, dynamic cookies. So they can find the book at any of those.
Oh, you can find the book on Amazon, at Medu Bookstore, at the Shrine of Black Madonna, at Afrocentric Network, at Avant-Garde Books in the West End. And it's in 23 locations.
Yeah.
My fingers are a little tired. I'll get back to trying to get some more locations in a second. But in the meantime...
That's good.
Yeah.
That's more than good. Well, excellent. If you're in the Atlanta area, go over to Medu, actually. Support. Medu is one of the only standing, black bookstores that has been there for, it feels like forever, ever, so go and support. And also shout out to Wadada in the community. Wadada always have been supportive, and all of the businesses and independent schools. Yes.
They help pay for the book.
Oh, nice. Shout out. Sister has always been doing good works in the community, so we shout out to her. Well, thank you, my brother, for coming in. I really appreciate the works that you're doing, and for sharing this time and space with me, and good to catch up with you. So glad to have this book in my hand. I will show my support this evening. Thank you all for tuning in to The Bridge, talk radio for parents, teachers, and students. That is my time, and make sure you tune in every Thursday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., where we are having talk for parents, teachers, and students. It's The Bridge, making a bridge between what you know and what you need to know. Peace.